So Peter is not yet a saint, and it's largely because he doesn't get the mystery of suffering. But boy, what a tough moment for him, huh? To hear, "Get behind me, Satan." That had to be one of the worst moments of his life. I kind of got called Satan one time by a holy man. I'll tell you this story. It goes way back to when I first joined the Franciscans. After my year of postulancy, I became a novice, moved to Catskill, New York, and I was going to do my novitiate year there. I was 25 years old, and I was on fire with love for the Lord, and I got sent to pretty much a retirement home where they said, "Okay, spend a year here, learn how to pray, and we'll get you in a year." And I was not happy. I was living with half a dozen friars or so. They were in bed by like 8 o'clock. I was 25 years old, ready to go. Let's go live the gospel. They're snoring. And I had classmates that I kept clashing with. One guy, I left the butter out of the fridge overnight. He lost his mind on me. I called it the Great Butter Meltdown of '92. I had another classmate who seemed a little too into me, kind of knew my schedule more than I did. He would say things like, "Wow, you were up at midnight last night. What were you doing?" And I was freaked out. Like he was writing a documentary on my life. And I had another friar, another young, not young guy, but a guy who joined us at 40 years old. A decent guy. He said he had spent a real riotous life before he joined us, and we jokingly said about him that he gave his body to the world and the bones to the order. So this was my classmates. And I was getting angrier and angrier that God had put me in this house. 25 years old, I'm ready to live the gospel, and everybody's snoring, and this is what I had to deal with. One day, Father Andre shows up. Father Andre would come and give us classes on St. Bonaventure and other stuff, and he gave us a beautiful class. And I'm sitting there in class, I'm kind of like, and afterwards, I think I need to talk to this guy. This guy's pretty holy. I said, "Can I have some spiritual direction from you?" So I went and sat down with Father Andre, and I gave him an earful. I told him everything that was wrong with everybody in the house but me. I went through, just like I went through with you just now, and I came up with more creative ways why this house was so horrible. And kind of like Jeremiah, I felt duped. I felt like the Lord tricked me into becoming a friar, and now I was miserable. And Father Andre listened to me go on and rant for about 20 minutes or so, and when I finally gave him a chance to talk, he said, "Satan's got you." And I said, "What?" He said, "Satan's got you. Look at you. You've become sour bottled vinegar. Is that what you want to be? Is that why you joined us? Satan's got you. He's leading you." I'm like, oh my goodness. He just called me Satan, in a sense. And he was right. I was spending those months just looking at what was wrong with everybody around me and angry at God that he'd sent me to this house in my prime of life. And I was becoming more and more bitter and sour. By the way, that's a line I've never used in spiritual direction. Satan's got you. I won't use that with any of you if you come see me. But it was what I needed to hear, because he was right. I was just missing the whole point of being there. And in that conversation with Father Andre, we started to talk. He's like, "Do you even know the men you're living with, that God is inviting you to live with?" I'm like, "Well, do you know them? Get to know them." And I started to try to get to know them. Father Dennis was in the house with us. Father Dennis was a wonderful man, about 80 years old. He took care of the greenhouse outside. And one day at lunch, I just asked him about that. And he lit up and he said, "You want to come see?" And he took me outside after lunch and he showed me the greenhouse that he had been taking care of for years. And he got all excited explaining the plants and things to me. Went over my head. I'm from Boston, but I loved that. Father Ernesto had spent about 30 years in our missions in Central America and had amazing stories once I finally asked and started to take an interest in him. He He had ridden a donkey to get to a village to bring people Holy Communion that hadn't seen a priest in about a year. I asked. He started to explain his life to me. Brother John was our tailor. He was making habits for us back then and showed me the tailor shop and all that he had been working on. I started to try to get to know the guys instead of sitting there thinking, okay, impress me, make me holy, do something wonderful for me, like it was all about me. That's what I started to learn. It wasn't about me. Even my vocation is not about me. And my classmates, the guy who had the meltdown over the butter, he wasn't a bad guy. But he did need someone to listen to him. He was going through a lot, and I started to try to listen to him. The other guy who was documenting my life and following me around, we started playing basketball together, and I think that's what he needed, a friend, because he was lonely. And the guy who had given his bones over to the order and his body to the world actually had a lot of wisdom coming in at 40 years old that he could share with me, both from being inside and outside of religious life. So the second half of my novitiate changed for me because I just started to look at it differently. Nothing outside changed, but my interior changed a little bit. I realized that, I thought there was like a bait and switch going on, right? When they advertise something and they just get you in the store and they sell you something else, the old bait and switch, that's what I thought the Lord was doing with me. He advertised this holy group of men, said, come live with them, and I found that they were not holy. They were average and lazy and selfish. I thought the Lord pulled a little bait and switch on me until I realized that this was the perfect place for me because I am average and lazy and selfish. Good call, leading me to this group. Maybe we could work on that stuff together. It was the perfect group for me. There's an old comedian, Groucho Marx, years ago, my dad's age. He used to say, I'd never join a club whose standards are so low that they would accept me as a member. Get it? Think about it. Sorry. That's kind of how I felt about the Friars. They were letting in sinners and weak people who had all kinds of faults, and nothing changed until I realized that I was the greatest sinner of them all, and I had all those faults and more. And the Lord had led me to that novitiate in Catskill, New York, for a reason, and everybody there was there for a reason. We were called to work with each other and help each other hear the voice of God. So that was the beginning of me learning the truth that the outside doesn't have to change, but the inside has to change for holiness. Any situation that we go through, we can let Satan use it to make us like bottled vinegar, or we can let God use it to make us a saint. May God give you peace.